Todd, when you look back to last night or even to game one, the two situations are different, but what needs to happen when you're up 3-1? How can you handle that differently to sustain your pressure and close out, hold on to a 2-goal lead?
The attitude of continuing to play the same way. You're going to get a push from the opposition, and this is a pretty good opposition that we're playing against, pretty talented group, so they're going to make it challenging on you. Maybe slowing it down a little bit, more whistles if you can. We just got to find a way. Had a 2-goal lead twice, and I know they were saying the same thing after game two. About doing the right things, not giving them opportunities, and it's 2-0 game, and 5 seconds to go in the period, and you got the puck on your stick. We got to execute, make a play, and battle. Just to get it out of the zone. You don't necessarily have to make a play, but just recognizing and game management.
Todd, can you talk about Jack Johnson's play down the stretch and certainly through the first 3 games, how important that's been, and maybe what you see his role in that dressing room, especially in the playoffs, being?
Jack has been very good down the stretch. He's been very good in these first 3 games. He plays like a man out on the ice. His skating, he can log the big minutes. He played close to 40 minutes in the overtime game in game 2. In their big minutes, tough minutes against the oppositions. He's playing against Crosby or Malkin most of the night. Penalty killer, he's one of the first guys over the boards, and then plays power play. So every situation, he's a real important piece for our team. Not only what he brings out on the ice and how he plays and able to handle big, strong guys, also guys that can skate. But I think he's got a lot of respect in the room from his peers and just how he plays out on the ice. And he's a guy that takes care of himself, and he's in the weight room. He's doing the right things. He's been a real key guy for us down the stretch.
Todd, do you have any theories on why the game looks different from home to road? It seems like the look of the game last night just had a different feel to it than what the 2 games in Pittsburgh. And what's the dynamic between the 2 teams that occurs when you switch venues like that? Do you have any?
The only thing that I would say to that is that there's pressure does change when you're at home and when you're on the road. I mean, there's pressure obviously in being playoff hockey, but I think there is a little bit different dynamic playing at home and playing on the road. There is an advantage to playing at home when you are the home team to feed off the energy of the home crowd, but I think as a road team, there's an advantage to that too. So I don't know. This is a team that we're playing against that has been in this position, I'm sure, a number of times. They've won. They know what it takes to win. They've been down, I'm sure, in series where they've had to come back out and win that home ice advantage back. So it's a team that has a lot of experience, and feel maybe it was a little bit more desperation on their part. I'm not sure, but the game did have a little bit different feel to it. I would agree with that, and for me, it's a little bit about the pressure.
Todd, this has been a pretty resilient team. You've had some bad losses. They've come back with big wins afterwards or whatever. That was a tough loss last night in the playoffs. Was that any different? Did you see the players? Are the players seem the same to you as they have in other situations? They take that more to heart, or you think that's behind them and they're on their way?
The losses in the playoffs, I think, are they affect you a little bit more. But I believe this group and seeing them this morning, they've come in and put it behind them. There's things you got to take from it. You got to learn from it. That we need to address and getting ready for Game 4. But I think this group is, going through the experiences down the stretch, playing important games. When you do have a tough loss after our Chicago game here at home, the guys were focused and ready for the next game. So I believe that this team is going to be ready to play, ready to start Game 4.
How much of their comeback was them, and how much of it was you, and what can you do to counteract that?
Yeah, that looked to me like they had a little bit more simple, direct game. They weren't wasting time coming out of their own zone. Their execution was a little bit better, and they had some speed through the neutral zone, and we have to try to nullify that. We've talked about that coming into the series that they're a rush attack team, and we need to neutralize their speed as best we can. We didn't get pucks all the way in. We need to be better with our execution. So there's bits and pieces of both, and it's tough to say that it was 100% them and 100% us. When these guys are skating and putting pucks into places, putting pressure on you, it's a difficult team to play against.
Todd, there have been a few instances where Bobrovsky has made a save and almost in a taunting way has shown the puck to the Penguins. I know you leave the goaltending to the goaltenders and the goaltending coach, but as a coach, are you okay with seeing something like that? Would you?
Well, I know Bob. I don't think that's a taunting fashion. You guys might perceive that and want to make a story out of it that we're taunting them or he's taunting them. Bob isn't that type of guy. I've been around the game long enough to know there are certain guys that are doing it intentionally to taunt. Bob is not that. That's not his character.
I'm sure if you thought before the series that you would be 3 games in and have kept Crosby, Kunitz, Neal, Letang, I'm missing someone else, Malkin, goalless, that would be a good thing. Is there something specific that you can point to that why that's happened, and is it a bit alarming that at some point those guys will likely get on the board, or how do you view that?
No, you're right. It's those are great players you just named, and they've obviously had great seasons, and they're real important pieces on their respective team. It is tough to think that you're going to keep them shut. I don't know if you can do that if this goes a 7-game series. They're too good. One thing that we have to be careful of is we've been putting these guys on the power play. We've been giving them lots of opportunities to be able to finish. We need to continue to skate. The more we can make these guys play in their own zone, obviously they're 200 feet from our net and spending some energy in their own zone. So we need to continue to do that. You need to be aware of who you're out on the ice against at all times. And you might have to sacrifice a little bit in the offensive zone just to make sure that we're in good defensive position, that we aren't giving up anything. But those are dangerous guys, and we know that. And at any moment, and you go back and you look at scoring chances, they're getting scoring chances. So Bob's making the saves, or maybe we're in the right place to block a shot, so we need to continue to do those. But this goes 7 games. I think at some point you figure that they're going to get 1 or 2, but if we can keep it to a minimum, that'll be in our favor.
Todd, because of what you referred to earlier about home and road differences, a couple of your guys compared last night to Game 1 all over again. With that in mind, how valuable was that experience headed into Wednesday?
We learned something coming out of Game 1 in Pittsburgh. I think it was new for a lot of guys. That whole experience of playing playoff hockey and on a big stage, and it was different coming home because this was Game 1 for me, and I think a lot of our guys. It was Game 1 all over again in front of our fans. So again, it had a different feel. There was a lot of emotion in it, and I think the emotion at times kind of derailed us. And what I mean by that is just our thinking out on the ice. I think we got caught up in the moment at times, myself included, where it sidetracks your game, and we were out of position. Our structure wasn't as good as Game 2 was in Pittsburgh after the first period. And I think we learned that from Game 1 in Pittsburgh. So now we got to get ready for Game 4. There's some things that we learned coming out of Game 3. I think we know what to expect now. We got Game 1 in our building out of the way. The other thing too is coming in. I think there was a lot of emotion and excitement that sometimes you feel you got to come in, you got to put on a show for the home crowd, and you got to do things different. And I think we got away from our game a little bit. Some of that had to do with what Pittsburgh was doing, but some of it had to do with what we were doing too.